Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? Driving and watching. ITT's out there driving and watching. Hello, Vanessa. How's it going? Hopefully, everybody's doing good. Let's see. Let's try and get some music out here. How's that? Let's see if I learned anything from Ivan while we wait. Oh, let's do a little rock. Hopefully, it's not going to be too loud. We'll see. Can y'all hear that? Give me a thumbs up. All right. We'll give it a couple minutes. We got about another minute or so. Let everybody hop on. Yep, I got a thumbs up from ITT. You all can hear the music. That's a good deal. Not bad music. All right. I know we've got a couple people that were driving. I was out, actually, beforehand, I was out there uh, putting some lead down range. That was fun. Had a lot of fun out there today. That was a blast. I always love shooting. Can't help it. So. All righty. All right, we're going to go ahead and just to get a jump on this. And anybody coming in, woohoo, Killian, thank you so much for showing up, buddy. Appreciate it. Hope all is going well. So tonight I have a special guest. Of course, every guest is special, and his name is Tom West. He joins us from his, it looks like, studio, I'd guess, or so. Um, if everybody's ready and as excited as I am, I just want to jump right in and get him welcome. So please, throw some comments out there. Welcome, Tom, appropriately here.
Hey,
There he is. Hey,
hey,
Tom.
how
How's
you
it
doing?
going?
It's all right. How about you?
Going good. Going really good. Thanks so much for doing this. I really
Cool.
appreciate you coming on and having a conversation with me, and sharing your story with others, no matter what it is. And there's a lot of people out there who have similar stories. They don't know, who they can talk to, but sometimes I think hearing from other people just like them who served makes it a lot easier to relate and be able to get past any kind of issue they might feel they have.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So why don't we start with you kind of giving us a little bit of insight about about yourself.
All right. Such as my military career, or just about
Yeah, yeah, what was your family like before you started? How was that? Was that
yeah. Growing up, I was adopted. So my initial life, I was adopted at 12. So I was kind of older at the time of adoption. I'd lived with them for a little while, but my initial life growing up, was pretty rough. You know what I mean? A
I
lot of
do.
childhood trauma, and I didn't know my dad. My mother was a drug addict, so I was kind of in and out of foster homes and shuffled around, and it was pretty. I didn't really have a really good childhood, needless to say. But I think a lot of that helped me, you know, in my life now, such as like, me going to work and work ethic and stuff of that
Hmm.
nature. I've always wanted to be better than I was yesterday. You know what I mean? And it's something I still strive for today. So I think that helped me a lot. And I didn't, that's another reason why I think I got a strong mechanical background of what I'm doing, is because I didn't have the toys and, experiences that other kids had. I was always trying to figure out how I could make something work so I could have a toy myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah, I do.
I got to think that helped me out. But I got adopted, and life was good. After that, and they're still my parents today. They were up here not too long. Well, we actually went to a wedding last week, and they live in Georgia, and we left Friday, and I stayed the night at their house, and spent some time with them. So that was really nice.
They're happy to see you, I bet.
Oh yeah, you know, and me and my dad are really really close, and he's helped me a lot through different things. But coming up, I just I knew that I wanted to join the military, um, just so I could make a way for myself, and initially I was going to join the Marine Corps, and then I was going to join the Army. I didn't really know what in the hell I was going to do. I was wanting to put myself through college.
Hmm.
That was one of the main reasons I wanted to go to school. I wanted to learn something. And I was always tearing apart things, working on cars and lawnmowers and hot rodding anything I could put my hands on. So I excelled at that. I actually got out of school early, so I ended up getting a GED. Um,
Congrats. Nice. That's great.
Absolutely. So school wasn't really good for me. I don't necessarily think I'm extremely smart, but I just it was really boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Um, I took the ASVAB. I did really good on it. I got a 91 on it.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
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 right.
amazing.
Yeah. So, um, I had a bunch of career paths to take, and one day, Navy guy just happened to be there, and he's like, "Man, why don't you join the Navy, dude? I can get you some money." And at that point, that was kind of the triggering effect. He was like, "Dude, I'll get you some extra money, dude. You made a good ASVAB score. Let's go."
I'm
So,
sure everybody wanted to at that point, every branch, didn't they?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So, I originally joined the Navy, and I wanted to work on airplanes. That was my thing. I was like, "Dude,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
working on cars and hot rods and all that stuff, lawnmowers." I was like, let's work on airplanes. So I joined as an airman to work on airplanes. And, this was right after 9/11. So it was like 2003, 2004 when I joined. And I was 17 years old. My dad signed for me to go in. So I went in, I was young. And I, uh, I don't know. Everything was good, and then halfway through boot camp, um, they sent me to classification, and he's like, "Hey, go to classification. They want to see you up there." So I was like, "Cool." So as I said, I wanted to work on airplanes. I was gung ho about that. I was like, "Man, I've done everything else. I haven't worked on airplanes." So I get up there, and they wanted to give me some more money. So, and this was like I mean, everybody that's been in the military, whenever you're in boot camp, it's a real shocking factor for you.
To
Everybody's yelling.
finally have money in your pocket.
Yeah, well, not just that, but I mean, I'm just the chaos of boot
Yeah.
camp. You
Yep.
don't know what to do. Everybody's yelling at you. I mean, and you're just stuck on bearing. You don't want to look at nobody. I mean, it's terrible. So, anyways, halfway through it, like I go into classification, and the guy's like kicks out a seat, and he's like, "Sit down, man. You want a Coke?" And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, "Oh man, kill it with the bearing, dude. Just sit down, dude. Chill." I'm like, "All right." So I sit down, and he starts talking to me. He's like, "Man, we got this new rate that we're doing, man. We're gonna give you some money. We want you to sign up for it." And I was like, "Well, what am I gonna be doing?" He's like, oh, you're going to still be working on stuff, man. You want to be a mechanic, right? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, well, I want to work on airplanes. He's like, oh, you'll work on helicopters and shit. It's like the same thing.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, well, I could do that. I never worked on a helicopter. I'm just going to tell you that, right? So that was a lie, and just anything I would do to sign the paper. So he brought me a Coke in there, and they gave me like another $10,000 to take this job. And I was like, all right, bet. So it was a cross rate job. So I signed up as a machinist mate, but I was never a machinist mate either. So I did that. And I'm talking about as soon as I signed that paper, I went to pick up the Coke and he slapped it out of my hand. And he said, on your feet. I'll never forget it. And I was like,
test. It was a test.
Yeah, I knew this was some bullshit. You know what I mean? So I go back, and then immediately after boot camp, so I got done with boot camp, and I went to my A school for machinist mate because that's what I was rated as, and that was next door. And I learned about boiler systems on boats and all that extra stuff. So I was like, cool, I'm working on boilers and diesel engines. And I'm like, man, I've already been doing that, So I kind of took to that. And then after I got out of that, I went to what's called a C school. And that's like a specialty school. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I was working on distillery equipment. And I'm like, man, this dude told me I was going to
Well, so, they need alcohol too.
Yeah, well, I wasn't even making that. I was making water, So
they need that. That's pretty important.
Yeah, my job, and it's kind of a joke, a lot of people that I worked with and went through the military with, I was the water boy. So that was what my job was. I was never part of
H2O.
Yeah, so H2O. Yeah, so I got done with the school, and immediately I got my my paperwork, and I was like, all right, well, where am I going? And it said the John F. Kennedy, which was in Mayport, Florida. And I was like, all right, well, I didn't read the fine print. You know what I mean? I was like, all right, I'm going to Florida. So I had a bunch of stuff. I'd already been through A school, C school. I'd been in the Navy at that point, 6 or 7, 9, maybe 10 months. I mean, almost a year, So I've been doing all this training. I went through boot camp, learned all about how to distill water and work on distillery equipment and boilers and everything else. And they're like, okay, you're going to Florida. So I'd already accumulated a bunch of junk. You know what I mean? So I'd got my car up there at C school. So I had a little U-Haul trailer, and I went to my parents' house first because I got some time off, and I got like 2 weeks of leave. So I went to my parents' house and had some fun, and then I got ready to go, and I just kept pulling my little U-Haul trailer. Well, I made it to Florida, and dude's like, one of the guys, because I was asking where my barracks? Am I going to stay in this boat? What's going on? And they're like, oh, man, you're deploying, dude. Like, I'm deploying. And they was like, yeah, you're leaving in 48 hours. Your boat's not even here, and you're not even part of ship staff, dude. So, yeah, at that point, the JFK was out to sea, and they're like, you're not ship staff. You're going to Bahrain. And I was like, all right.
Oh,
so
wow.
They were like, so you need to get rid of that stuff. Like, go put it in storage or something. And I'm like, well, damn. So I called my dad, and I was like, hey, and I explained the situation. So he flew to Florida to get my car and the U-Haul trailer and drive it back home. So, I mean, it was just a wasted trip. But I get a couple sea bags, and I jump on a plane, and we head to Bahrain. So I got off in Bahrain, and at this time, I'm still like clueless. I'm asking questions, but I don't really know what's going on. But I get to Bahrain, and from there, my first duty station was Kandahar. So, and I was like, okay, I'm going to Kandahar. And like I said, I wasn't part of ship staff. So what my main job was, and I worked with an Air Force guy, and we distilled. They had outposts of water distillery equipment.
Okay.
It was mostly for like civilians and stuff like that aren't involved in the war. But at that point, Al Qaeda and ISIS and all this extra shit that's going on over there, they were hoarding everything, taking water away from their own people and everything like that. So we had these water outpost stations that we would service, maintain, and keep water supply going. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Yeah,
That's a huge thing.
that was our main job. So we rode around in Humvees, and we just would work on these things. And I did it my entire time in the Navy. So and then once upon a time, I went to Ramadi, Fallujah. I've been to a couple different places, and a couple different duty stations over there. And while I was over there, I was realistically, my goal in the military is I was just going to make a career out of it. I was going to do 20 years and then retire. I kind of liked what I was doing. And with what I was doing, I was deployed. So I got all kinds of hazard pay and, I was just making a lot of money, it's
Right.
tax-free. So, and I wanted to stay out there. I'd come back and I'd re-up for another deployment because they had a shortage of us guys distilling this water, doing water purification. So it was a good place for me to be at the time. So I was like, dude, I'll just stay in. And I ended up getting shot. So it wasn't like a firefight or anything like that. Nothing crazy. I don't have no crazy story to go behind it. But, I got shot through the back. Just a stray bullet hit me. I was working on a piece of equipment. I didn't have a flak jacket on. So it's kind of my own dumb fault. I didn't like wearing gear working because it was really hard for me to work on things. So I would we were part of a Marine detachment. So we had a bunch of Marines with us at all times. So, and we never saw any combat. No one was ever trying to, bomb us or anything else. They knew what we were doing. We had one job. And, even we encountered a lot of Al-Qaeda and stuff of that nature, and they knew what we were doing. They knew what our job was. Our job was to give them water, and
right.
They kill us, we're giving them the water. You know what I mean? So I just, I got real relaxed with the atmosphere that I was in, which is a bad thing. And that's just kind of what led to me not being fully prepared and, staying in dress and all that stuff. So I got hurt and I got evac to Ramstein out in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I woke up at. I woke up out there, and I was at an Air Force base over there, and stayed there for a little while. And then they sent me over to Walter Reed, and they just doing a lot of evaluations on me. And it turned out that I had got a lot of significant chest wall damage from the bullet. I got hit with 7.62, and it went through and came out. So they were really scared that I wasn't going to be able to go back out in active duty. You know what I mean? Out to war or anything like that. So I was fighting to stay in. I had a couple chiefs on my back that were trying to help me. So they were putting me through physical fitness things and all that extra stuff. And the crazy thing about it is physical fitness never hurt me. All right. But they TAD'd me back to Great Lakes. So I get back up there, and here's the funny thing too. So the initial, whenever I first went to A school, I was rated as a machinist mate because they didn't have anything to rate us at because we were like a specialty rate
right.
doing this stupid shit. So we were rated as machinist mates in engineering. So they TA'd me to Great Lakes, and I had to go teach the machinist mate school. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So, of course, there was an instructor, the lead instructor's in there, and me and him were talking, and he's like, hey, man, so what kind of boats were you on? And I was like, And at that point, I was a second class petty officer, so I was E5. So I got some rank up, and he's just like, well, you've been in for a while, man. How do you get some rank up? And you ain't never been on a boat. And I'm just like,
wait,
I ain't never been on a boat. So, we talked, he knows the story, and he's just like, all right, well, just, I'll teach the class and you just learn too. And I'm like, all right.
That's actually not a bad deal, right?
Yeah, so,
let somebody else do the work.
So he said, just help me anytime you can help me. And I'm like, all right. So, but we were doing that. And during that time, I was still being monitored and checked out by, Navy hospital and all that stuff, and still going through these stages of, am I going to be, am I getting a medical discharge, or y'all going to like desk me where I can't go out here and fight no more? What's the deal? I was still in lingo waiting on that situation on the merry-go-round. And my lung collapsed teaching class. I just
Oh
standing
no.
there, and my lung collapsed, and that was like the straw. That's kind of what they were waiting on. Is like, hey, let's see if he's going to have this significant lung damage. And sure enough, I was teaching this class, my lung collapsed, and they sent me over there to the hospital, and they chest tubed me and all that stuff. And then, I was there for about a week. Then they pulled the chest tube out, and I was fine again. So, and they told me, hey, this is going to be a constant, reoccurring thing.
Oh
And
wow.
at that point, me, I'm not a medical doctor.
Right.
I don't know, and back then, sure. I'm a little older, so back then it was like 2008, somewhere in there, and 2007. So yeah, I mean, we didn't. The internet wasn't. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't a huge thing. I mean,
Exactly.
the iPhone had just come out and all that extra crap, so it was kind of just like I wasn't out here Googling symptoms and WebMD and how can I fix myself. So I didn't know what was going on. I'm listening to them, but anyways, I ended up getting a medical discharge because of it, and I came home. And at that time, I was real distraught. Actually, I almost got in some trouble with the Navy because at that point, I mean, everything that I had my entire career was all Navy. All right, and that's I know. I need y'all to chill out for a minute. All right. So, anyways, at that point, I was just real distraught. My whole, from being adopted to getting in the Navy, like I never finished high school. I got a GED and went straight into the Navy. And this is all I knew. I was like, man, this is my career. This is my life. I don't know anything else, so I didn't know where to go with anything. And whenever they put me up for this medical, like I was doing paperwork and all that stuff, and I was waiting on, your all my orders to leave to come in, and I just left. I went AWOL.
Oh.
But they didn't put it as AWOL. I went home, and my dad had called up there to a master chief that I was like really really good friends with, and my dad called him and said, "Listen, he's here at home. He's having some issues." And my dad checked me in. Well, I checked in. He didn't check me in. I checked into like a mental health hospital because I was losing it. And I went to Vanderbilt here in Nashville, and I just had to reevaluate my life, and I didn't know what to do, man. I was just, and of course, they kind of looked out for me in the Navy. They went ahead and processed my medical with me an absentee instead
Oh
of
wow.
you know giving me AWOL and kicking me out and just losing everything. So, they took care of me. So
Did they go through the med board process, or did they just say, "Well, we already know," and sign it off?
So that's what I was kind of waiting on during that time. It was like a
Yeah.
med board process, and they had already finalized it, but I was waiting on everything to come back to say, okay, you can go home now. You're done. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
at that point, that's when I just left. One night I was really losing it. And like I said, a master chief that I was really good friends with, and he was a machinist mate too. And, he kind of just, it kind of took me under his wing, and he laughed. I mean, he just thought I was the most retarded person in the world. God. But anyways, he, my dad, he talked with my dad, and he said, listen, I'm going to talk to some people, and my dad sent him the information to where I was at what mental health hospital I was at and all that stuff. So they kind of took that in effect, and instead of shooting me up for like a captain's, mass or chief's mass and all that stuff, they just like, you know what, we're just going to you out in absentee and all that stuff. So then the VA checked in on me and all that stuff, and I got a bunch of paperwork in the mail, and that was kind of it for my Navy career. And I like I said, that initial time out, I went through a bunch of bad stuff in my head. Like I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought this was the end of my life. The Navy was everything to me. And then I just kind of felt like I was being abandoned, kind of like whenever I was those childhood memories from, when we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
me being adopted and all that stuff. I was feeling that feeling of abandonment, and, everything that meant anything to me was kicking me out the door, and you're done, and it was just you know, I didn't know what to do. I lost it. And I stayed in this facility for a little while, and then I started doing some outpatient treatment, and I came home, and of course I just kind of went out on the lam. Really, I got a job, you know, with a guy, construction company, doing some things, and yeah, that was basically it. You know, I didn't know what I was going to do, and then luckily enough, I decided I need to get my life together, and I started making strides to do that. I enrolled myself in school, so you know you got the GI Bill and all that stuff. So I started trying to do that, and that wasn't really going anywhere. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, and I ended up getting arrested for a driving a car. Of all
Oh,
things.
wow.
Yeah. So I was part of a robbery that happened. I was a wheelman in the car, and then so this was just a steady decline in my life. You know, like I'm out of the Navy. You know, all these things are happening. I'm getting checked in. I'm trying to find work. You know, but I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do. I mean, where could you get a job in the world distilling water? You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I have at that time, even though I had the skills of working on cars and all that extra stuff, it really wasn't a mindset for me to go out there and do that. So I was just I felt like I was unemployable, you know, and just really in a bad spot. I ended up going to jail, sat in jail for a little while. And then from there, I ended up taking a plea deal on this thing, you know, because I was party to a crime of it.
And
You
they
know?
caught you, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Not a
they
good
didn't-
driver.
Whoa.
I'm sorry. I just had to throw that out
Yeah.
there. And there's a reason why I threw that out there. So we'll get to that here in just a little bit.
They didn't catch me in the car, all right?
Okay, good.
I got away with it, sort of say, but the guy that did the robbing and all that stuff, he ended up getting popped and then implemented me in it. And then, you know,
Ah,
yeah, they came and got me. And of course, you know, I ended up taking a plea to it. I owned it, and I was like, all right, yeah, I did it. And I took a plea deal to it, and I ended up doing a little bit of prison time off of it. So,
oh, geez.
and
How long did you end up having to do?
uh, all in all, it was nearly 3 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. So I went through a boot camp program, and that's why I got out. And it was 6 months long. It was the hardest damn thing I ever did in my life. You talk about something hard. So, you know, I wasted
Even harder than your boot camp for the Navy?
Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
mean, it's 6 months long. You know, Navy boot camp's 2 months. You know,
Yeah,
what I mean?
right.
Good. Well, I just felt like I was losing it in there. But you know, I think it was an eye opener for me. That helped me. That kind of brought me back to reality. You know what I mean? Because I
Yep.
had a big deal with getting kicked out of the Navy like I did, and I'm just like, man, that's the only thing I ever knew. It was like the Navy was my family.
And they
And
gave you direction too.
yeah, you know, do this, do that, like, and I lost that, and when I lost that, I lost everything. You
Yeah.
know, and I literally feel like I was just spiraling out of control. So I came home while I was in my lung collapsed again while I was in prison.
Oh, no.
So I'm still dealing with this shit. So I get out and I made a bunch of changes. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to school. So immediately came home. My dad was like, let's go. So my dad took me to school. So jumped back on the VA. I got with the VA, got my benefits rolling again, and got the GI Bill popped intact. I got into Nashville Auto Diesel College. So I got into the diesel college and I started going to school, and I think the school was probably like 13 months long or something like that. And about 9 months in, I clept a whole bunch of Navy boot is like, it's 8 weeks, I guess you could say. Maybe it's 9, you know, I know like the training part of it's 8 weeks. And then you're going to sit there for like a week. You go through graduation and all that crap. And I don't know about other branches, but I know after graduation, you know, the family came up there and saw you, and you just don't leave. You're still stuck there. So, yeah. So then we're there, but I mean everything's cool. Then you're watching movies, like the drill sergeants kind of respect you now and all that stuff. But I think whenever I got out, whenever we got done with graduation, I was still stuck in boot camp for like a week, and it was really laid back and lax then. We watched movies and we still worked out and did some drill, but other than that, it was just we're kicking it, and then kind of everybody got their orders and dispersed from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But back to the whole
Yeah.
with my dad thing. I got in school, and so my dad brought me up to the Diesel College and dropped me off and said, "All right, do something good now." You know what I mean? We got you back straight, got your head together. So I went to Diesel College and we did all that. And I clept a couple classes that I was already good at, and then I ended up doing it in about 9 months.
So
And then
Saga says it's similar to the Marines, where it's 12 weeks of training and then 1 week of whatever.
pretty much. I
Yep.
mean, and you get it. You just kind of you're stuck. You don't know what to do. No one's really
Yep.
going at you anymore. But
Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
so yeah, and I do remember this though vividly. So I like I said, I've only been in the Navy, but we had this is how you distinguished if you were in the Navy or you weren't in the Navy. All right, or if you like you're still a recruit. So
Okay.
the ball cap that we wore, it said recruit on the front of it. It didn't say Navy. It said recruit. So whenever we went through our battle stations is what they called it. That was the last training event that you go through before you graduate. And we did battle stations, and then it's like a 48-hour nonstop, no sleep, just hell on wheels, I guess you could say.
Wow. That's kind of like the crucible for the Marine Corps then. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they called it battle stations. And of course, when you're on a boat, you battle stations, everybody man your battle station. So that's kind of what it was like. And it was simulating you're on a boat and all hell's breaking loose and you're shoring up walls and all this extra stuff. So anyways, after all that's over with, they shake your hand, and instead of like I said, and I guess in the Marine Corps, maybe you get something. They'd take our recruit hat from us and they'd give us a hat that said Navy on it and shake our hand. And so now we're in the Navy. You know what I mean? So
welcome to the Navy.
Yeah, so that's how you distinguish people that were still stuck in boot camp. If they had a Navy ball cap on, they're in the Navy. They ain't a recruit no more. So all the drill sergeants kind of left you alone, and you were just stuck. A week or whatever. You know what I mean? But I got into the school, and I got out. I finished school, and then I went to work. There was a guy that came in. They was doing some classes, and it's really hard to get. Back then, nowadays, you can get a job anywhere because nobody wants to work.
Boy, that's the truth.
But back then, it was kind of hard to get a job. Every place was booked up and all that stuff. And there's a guy that came in there with a company, and I was like, dude, I need a job, man. And I said, I don't care what I'm doing. I'll come in there and sweep your floors, Yeah, but I need a job. And he really liked that, Then he said, I'm going to put you to work. He said, you come down and see me. So I was literally thinking I was going to go sweep floors because that's what I told him I'd do. And when I got there, he's like, all right, you need to – I had a car at the time. I didn't have a truck. So he's like, you got a toolbox? I said, yeah. He's like, well, take one of our company trucks and go get your toolbox. And I was like, oh, I'm a mechanic? He's like, well, what else do you think I hired you for?
Sweeping floors.
Yeah. So I went to work for him, and I'm there working. It's called Alley Cassidy Truck Center. I'll never forget J.R. Pinkston. There's a good story behind this. So anyways, went to work for him, and he taught me a lot, man. And he forced me into things. He's like, hey, you're gonna go rebuild this engine. So I was like, all right. So I was rebuilding motors. He got me some more money, so I was doing really good for myself. And then he saw a lot of potential in me, So one day he's like, hey, he sent me for a job interview with a guy. He's like, I want you to go talk to this guy. So I go up there and talk to him, and they was wanting me to build some engines for a different company, that there's called Fitzgerald's glider trucks and all this extra stuff. So he's like, go build these engines. So went and built these engines. Well, I didn't want to. So here's the crazy thing about the JR incident. So I came back after the interview, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to sit in a fucking engine bay and build an engine. The monotony of that sounds crazy. I said, man, I think I'm just going to stay here. And he was like, all right, I can respect that. And he's like, well, go out here and get to work. So anyways, about 30 minutes later, I get called to the general manager's office, and JR sitting in there.
Uh-oh.
And he says, I heard you went for a job interview today. And I was just like taken aback by this because I'm looking at JR like, what the fuck? Like you're the one that sent me on this job interview. So he's like, well, if you're going to be out here shopping for other work, he's like, I don't want you other jobs. I don't want you working here. He's like, so go ahead and get your toolbox and pack it up and get out of here. And I was just like, damn, I didn't really have anything to say. I was just like, all right. So I turned around and walked out of the office, and then JR kind of followed me out, and we're in the hallway, and I was like, what was that all about? And he's like, this is an opportunity that you need to take. And he said, you came in here and you told me that you weren't going to take this opportunity. Well, I just found that I just needed to have you fired. So
Wow.
yeah. So he's like, but they got a job waiting on you, so you go load your box up and go to Clark. And I'm like, all right. So I went to work, and I started doing this stuff, and yeah, I got a raise. I was making more money. I was doing really good for myself, but I learned a lot. All right. I learned so much that, after a year, it was like a year and a half of doing it, that I quit and I went in business for myself. All right. So I learned
nice.
so much that I went in business for myself. And here's the funny thing about it. I started with a guy in a truck, and then it was 2 guys in a truck and 2 trucks. And then it went to 2 shops, and I had this massive business. We had 30 something employees within 2 years. This happened. But when I went to open up my first shop, I opened up my first shop, and then I had that going really good. And then I got an opportunity to have a contract with USF Holland, which is Yellow Freight, which is now debunked. It all went to shit.
Yes.
And anyways, I was working for all the Holland stuff, and they have a shit ton of trucks, and I had to have another shop. So I leased this huge shop, and I called up JR Pinkston, and I said, I need a service manager. And he said, I'll walk out right now. He was still at Alley Cassidy. And he said, are you serious? And I said, yeah. He said, let me go tell them they can go fuck off. And he literally did.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The guy that had me fired, so I'd take a different opportunity and stay. Because he told me, he's like, listen, we sat down and talked about it one time. He's like, if you stay in the shop, you're never going to do anything, man. You got potential. I see potential in you. And he said, you're an awesome technician. You can figure out anything. And I've never met anybody like you. All right. And he said, and if you stay sitting here at this dealership, you're never gonna excel. You're not gonna go anywhere.
Right.
There's no ladder to climb in here. And he's like, so I needed to get you out of the door. And
that's the kind of mentor you needed.
Yeah. So I hired JR, and he's my service manager. So he was operating the shop. So he started the next day. He showed up. He went and got a trailer, loaded up his toolboxes. He was happy.
Wow.
Good. So he lives in Florida now, and we're still good friends and stay in touch with each other. But he was my service manager and all that good stuff. So my phone's doing something stupid. But anyways, so did that, and then I ended up selling that business in 2015, and that's when me and John met, at Specialized. I used to work on John's trucks, before Specialized Truck Repair. All he had was STS, his transport company. That's it.
Okay.
So used to work on his trucks back in the day, and that's just been a growing thing, and I've worked for a couple different companies, but I got a lot of things that I learned from distillery that I do now. Like I learned a lot about HVAC systems, and all this extra stuff, and I've utilized all that knowledge. And I went and worked for a company where I learned how to work on reefer units.
Oh, good.
That's kind of where I've transitioned myself now. Like my main source of income is I have a reefer repair service. So I work on transport refrigeration, and I still work on some of John's units, because that's what he does is cold storage transport. So that's basically what I do now. I got a bunch of contracts with different companies like Tyson Foods and all these big name people. So I drive around. Yeah, I drive around and work on all that crap. But back to another funny story. back to the whole military thing. Whenever this
Mhm.
lung incident happened, this is the kicker.
Was it
So,
the first time or the second time?
all right, this is the third time that.
Oh.
So, and I forgot to mention this. When I was in diesel college, all right, this is when I came back. My dad said, "You're going to school and all this stuff." He brought me to the school and dropped me off, left me. So I'm in diesel college. I'm sitting in class, and at this time, my lungs already collapsed twice, so I know exactly what happens. I've been through this scenario so much already. So I was sitting in class, my lung collapsed.
Just sitting there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they were really strict. The thing about the school was they graded you. One of your grades was attendance and
Hmm.
time in class and all that stuff. So I didn't want to lose any attendance classes. I didn't want to lose any points. So like I was kind of sitting there, and then I had to stand up because I couldn't breathe, and I was like kind of bent over. And then so when your lung collapses, if a lot of y'all don't know this, it's like if it's air getting inside that sac. So your lung hangs inside a sac, and there's absolutely no air in it. Well, if air or anything gets in there, fluid, it pushes against your lung. So when your lung tries to expand, it can't. You follow what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yep.
They put a chest tube in, you'll hear it go, psh, and it's all the air that got trapped in there. So, anyways, I can't breathe, and usually they rate it on a scale of percentage, like, hey, you're 30% collapsed or something of that nature.
Hmm.
So that's where you can still function, you can still breathe, but you feel the pressure. It's a deep pain inside of you. It's pretty rough. But
Wow.
and then if your lung fully collapses and it's not sealed off from the other one, you'll die. You won't be able to breathe at all. You won't even be able to inhale anything. So you'll suffocate. So I'm sitting there, and my lung was collapsing faster than it ever had before. So I'm standing up, I'm bending over in the classroom. My face isn't looking really good. And I'll never forget it. Vincent Vincetti, if he ever sees this, he's the one that he's looking at me, and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "My lung collapsed." And he was like, "Your lung collapsed." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Don't you think you should go to the hospital?" I was like, "Well, I was going to wait till lunch because I ain't trying to lose."
Oh my God.
I'm not trying to lose any attendance. And he was just like, if your lung collapsed, I'm not gonna take any attendance from you. So just go to the hospital. I don't want you dying in here. I'm like, all right. So I went and got in the car, and I drove myself to Skyline, which is probably about 15, maybe 10 minutes away from the school. And I drove up there, and I walked into the ER, and I was like, my lungs collapsed. And the lady's like, and here's the thing, like your oxygen count's going to still be normal. So she goes to
Really? Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. I mean, because you're still breathing in good oxygen. Literally, you're still breathing in good oxygen. You're just being suffocated from the inside. You know what I mean?
Right.
So she like puts the oxygen thing on. Well, your oxygen is fine, sir. And I was like, listen, my lung is collapsed, and if you don't get me a doctor out here right now, we're gonna have a problem. So a doctor happens to come out there, and of course he puts a stethoscope on my back, and he's like, we need to get him into, operating room right now. He's got to have
Right
surgery.
now. It's important.
So then she's looking like, oh, oops, I made a mistake. So they get me in there, but I tell him, I was like, look, I need a chest tube. I got to go. He's like, well, you got to stay here. And I was like, no, I'm signing myself out. I've got to go. So chest tube me. I've already been, and I told him, I've already been through this. I get it. I know I've got to go. So he's like, all right. So he set me up with a chest tube kit with a small one and taped it all to my side. And about 2 hours later, I'm doped up, because they give me some dope before they shove the tube down, cut me open and shove the tube in my chest wall. So I'm doped up driving in the car. I probably shouldn't have been doing that. I drive to school.
Times were different back then, right?
Yeah, they gave me they gave me a prescription for like Percocets, but they gave me some at the hospital too. They gave me some perks there, and then they had me on dope where they put me on like morphine drip or fentanyl or whatever it is. So I'm 2 sheets in the wind driving back to school, and I walk into the class and I don't have my shirt tucked in or anything. And Vincent's looking at me. He's like, is your lung uncollapsed? And like I raised my shirt up and his mouth dropped. He was like, the fuck is wrong with you? I was like, I told you I'd be back. And he's like, He's like, "You're a bad son of a bitch, Mr. West."
Been there. I know what I'm doing. It's all good. Oh my gosh, that is crazy.
But the good thing about the story is I left there. Well, I had to get the chest tube out, so I contacted VA, and they told me to go to. They had a good doctor at Fort Campbell at the Army base, so I went to the Army base, and is this dude with cowboy boots, man? I'll never forget this dude. I don't remember what his name is, but this dude was like straight out of a Texas movie. You know what I mean? And super cowboy. He comes in there and he's just like, he rips a chest tube out, has two guys in fatigues holding me down, arms behind my head. He shoves a big one in. He's like, we got a lot of fluid in there. We got to get that fluid out. So then he's like, I'm going to set you up. We're going to fix you for good. And I'm like, fix me for good? And he's like, yeah, we're going to do this surgery called a pleurodesis. And I was like, all right. And they did. So he went inside my chest wall and he like scarred the entire inside of that chest wall area. Now he cut it up. It was bleeding and all kinds of shit. I had to have a chest tube for like 2 weeks, and it was draining all that ooze and blood and guts out of my. It was terrible.
Yuck.
So, anyways, what happens whenever you get cut really bad is you got scar tissue that builds up.
Yeah.
So my entire chest wall is made out of scar tissue now, and my lungs never collapsed ever again. No.
That is an incredible story.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so how long did it take for you to totally heal up?
Maybe a month. I mean, it wasn't, I took the stitches out of my chest. I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks. They pulled the chest tube out, and then stitched me back up. And then about, like 2 weeks later, I got the stitches removed and I was fine. And since then I've been fine,
Wow.
I do have a condition now called precordial catch, which is where, so there's so much scar tissue buildup. So like my chest wall gets hung on my rib cage. And it hurts.
Like pleurisy almost, like that pain of pleurisy.
Yeah. But it'll stun me. Like I'll stop moving and somebody will be like, you all right? And I'll be like, and then I'm fine. But it's like split second. It really hurts. It's painful. But other than that, I've been great. So, yeah.
Oh, that's wow. That incredible stories. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ended up coming back, well, I guess when you came back and you were kind of in disarray in your mind, how was that on your family, your adopted family? How did they deal with that?
They didn't really know how to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, all they could really do is just, my dad is my dad's not really a hands-on type of person, but he's there. You know what I'm saying? Like, what can I do to help? Like,
right. So, you say the word and he'll do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest thing is he saw that I needed some mental help at that point because I was losing it,
Mm-hmm.
and he was scared that I was either going to end up in prison or dead, one of the two, and that's he was like, man, you're not right. So, that was the whole, let me get you some help. So I checked myself in at a place in Vanderbilt, and I got some mental health and rearranging, man. And it was rough. And it was kind of the thing that I had to learn that I struggled with as a kid is, the PTSD aspect of things, when a lot of people
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
So when a lot of people bring up PTSD, it's hard for me in ways for me to relate to like extreme PTSD where others like have mental breakdowns and go psychotic and all that stuff, because a lot of the things I learned, especially whenever I checked myself into a place for mental health treatment, it was just like, all right, I got to learn how to deal with this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. I can't use this for a crutch for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I kind of, growing up in the shitty environment that I was in as a kid, I couldn't use that as a crutch for the rest of my life. It's like, hey, I'm either going to do something or I'm going to die. Figure it out. You know what I mean?
Right. You didn't want to be a victim your whole life with everything that has happened. I understand that.
So I didn't want to live that lifestyle of woe is me. Somebody let me cry on your shoulder. I've got problems.
And that's why I'm where I'm at today. And
exactly. So I just got to the point in my own head of, all right, yeah, I've got problems. I've got some issues. I've got some PTSD shit going on. I mean, and I still deal with it today. There's random things like tics, or what I like to call them, that will just set me off. And when I say set me off, it just brings back a flashback. And yeah, is it an uneasy feeling? Sure. I mean, sometimes it almost makes me sick to my stomach. Like something will just trigger me, and it could be something as simple as like a loud noise, or the way a car backfires or something. It'll sound like a gunshot. I know a lot of like vets, they like to go shoot guns. I don't like to go shoot guns. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's things that, because they just, it brings back that uneasy feeling.
Well, yeah, and especially, I mean, it makes perfect sense where you were literally shot. So
Yeah.
to not
have some guns? Sure. I mean, we're going to take care of our family.
Absolutely.
Do I like to go shoot guns? Do I like to hear guns going off and all this?
Right.
No, that's just not my cup of tea. Like I said, everybody's got their own thing, but there's things that bring back vivid memories for me.
Right.
And as much as I'd like to say, okay, I'm going to stay away from them things, it's still going to happen.
Yeah.
And I deal with it, and I found, the way that I deal with the PTSD aspect of things, and just common struggles, because I've learned that I've got PTSD from my childhood. I've got a lot of shit that I got to deal with, and I've come to the realization that I can't dwell on the past.
That's right.
I've seen shit. I went overseas. I've seen people getting killed. I've seen bodies in the street. The stories that all the other guys got, I can share them same stories. I understand. Yeah, I never went into battle and was shooting people. That wasn't my job. But did I see the shit happening in front of me? Sure. There's memories that I can't get out of my head.
Right.
That I mean, just sitting here talking about it, I can visually see, body parts.
Yeah.
Those are things that bother me. But at the same time, it's never going to go away. It's always going to be there. So how do I deal with this? I focus on tomorrow. All right.
Oh, that's great.
And then the next day I focus on the next day, and my future is what's going to hold something for me. Because if I continue to woe is me and deal with this shit that happened in the past, I'm never going to get anywhere. I'm going to still be spinning the same tires in the same spot. You know what I mean? So, and I keep myself busy, and that's one of the things that, I'm thankful for it. I got a race car shop here, I own 2 different businesses, and I'm racing cars too. So I've got, between me and my wife, we have 7 race cars, so we're constantly on the go. I have 3 kids, I've got a wife to take care of, I've got multiple friends. I've got multiple people that work for me. So I've got no choice. I'm staying busy.
You got to keep going forward.
Yeah. And the last thing with me being so busy, even while I'm so busy, yes, something happens and it'll trigger me. And I'll just be like, I'll breathe, I'll take my moment that I need to take, and then I'll just push it as far. And some people might say, well, you're not dealing with it. I have dealt with it, and that's the thing, is there's only so much that you can do. I've dealt with it. I get it. I've made peace with it. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing, is I've made peace with it and I've dealt with it. Now, is it still going to affect me? Sure. But when it affects me now, I'm just like, all right, take a breath.
I know what this is. I know I can deal with it.
All right.
I just got to take a second and regroup my thoughts.
It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. All right. That shit that happened back then, it's not happening now. All right. That I'm not in Kandahar. That wasn't somebody being shot. That was the car backfiring. All right. That's I understand in my mind now. I can process what's going on, and I'm like, all right, I got to keep going.
Yeah.
So then I get back on task of what I was doing. Sure, sometimes I have nightmares. I'll wake up, I'll turn the TV on or some shit. I'll get it out of my head. Sometimes I'll talk to my wife. What's wrong with you? I'm like, You know, and she gets it. She's like,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, you know, and then I just move away from it and I go do something else. I watch the TV, I'll get my mind on something else and get out of my mind. Cause like I said, no, I'm not dismissing it, but you know, it's there, but I've already dealt with it. So I just got to keep moving. You know what I mean?
I do. So, when you end up, going in that direction and knowing your background, obviously, you said that, obviously, uh, gunshots or car backfires, those trigger. Can I make the assumption fireworks will do the
Yeah.
same?
Yeah. And you know, that's not necessarily, there's a video on our YouTube channel. I put fireworks on top of a
Mhm.
brick car and was shooting them, you know.
Yeah, I think I saw that one
Yeah,
actually.
we
Yeah.
had a black powder cannon. We were loading that up and shooting that. You know, like I said, I can't. The things that happened in my past are in my past. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I can't just take myself away from society and give up on every fucking thing. You know what I
Right.
mean?
But
Because
you
the
wouldn't
things,
be where you're at today. You have a
yeah,
family, you've got businesses, and that you're responsible for. And I
absolutely,
think that's part of what I appreciate about you telling your story, because there's a lot of people, a lot of veterans out there who have done just that opposite. They've gone into that deep depression. They think that seeking any kind of mental health is going to be a negative, mark for them, and or whatever the case may be, whatever the reasoning is.
right, right,
But in instances like what you've gone through, it makes perfect sense, and there are those kind of resources out there for them,
right,
and they just need to, just even if they just dip the toe, if you will, just
right,
do a little research. Doesn't they're not committing to anything, but go out, do some research, see what's out there, and that's then at least their mind starts to think about, well, that might not be too bad.
right. And it is, and I don't. Medication wasn't an option for me. I mean, so I mean, just because you talk to somebody doesn't mean they got to dope you up. It doesn't mean you got to have this thumb on your back or make you look
Right.
some type of way or anything like that. Realistically, whenever I first started dealing with this shit, it was, and there was a lot of it. It wasn't just the military. It wasn't just saying, oh, when this discharge came through, oh well, your time in the military's done. Sorry about your luck, you got shot. And then I'm all the PTSD from the past.
Yep.
The broken family, the feelings of abandonment. Now
Hmm.
I'm feeling that with the Navy. I'm dealing with all the trauma that I went through in the Navy and was seeing all this. There's a lot of shit, and there's a lot of veterans out there and a lot of people that I know, man. It's a lot of shit that we don't want to talk about. There's like and stuff that we've had to deal with and see, man. Some of the stuff that went on overseas was just absolutely terrible. These guys over there, they had raped children, their own children. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
terrible. Some of
Yep.
the things that we encountered and the lifestyle, and I think it's more of the lifestyle that they have over there. That's their way of life, I guess you could say. I mean, but over here, growing up, and it's terrible. Some of the things that happen over there, and I've had to deal with that stuff, and the everything just compounded at one time.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, I lost it. And I was like at the point where I was like, dude, I'm just going to kill myself. I mean, suicidal ideations, everything. Like, I've never in my life wanted to kill myself so bad. Like, I literally, and that's where my dad was at, is because it wasn't like I was crying out for help. I wasn't, hey, I'm going to go kill myself, one of these type of people. Like, I literally locked myself up and I was going to take my own life. And, you know, luckily I hung myself. I mean, this is some true facts. I got a crack in my tooth, or in my front tooth, and I got it filled in, so they filled it with like a cap. But I hung myself from a bed sheet, and the bed sheet came undone. Bed sheet came
Thank
undone.
goodness.
Yeah, I mean the bed sheet came undone. I was already unconscious. So I'd hung myself. Like I literally tried to take my own life. I'd pissed myself. I mean, everything. My bowels released, and I fell when the sheet came undone, I fell and I busted my mouth, on a dresser. And that's what knocked my teeth out, and my lips were bleeding where it busted me in the face. But I woke up laying in the floor in a pool of piss, my mouth bleeding, tooth chipped, and all kinds of stuff. But I literally tried to take my own life. It was one of the most scariest moments. When I came back to, it was one of the most scariest moments that I've ever had to deal with, from the military, being, kicked out of the military, to,
Yep.
The childhood trauma and, everything else. That was the most scariest point of my life. And it made me sit back and realize that, hey, I've got to figure this out. With help of my dad, I got checked in at a psychiatric hospital, and I stayed there, and I started from there. And like I said, the medication aspect wasn't for me. It was me getting it out and talking to somebody. And it wasn't necessarily just me getting it out to tell somebody the story. It was getting I was getting professional people to explain to me, all right, this is the way that you're going to have to deal with this. Having somebody to talk to, and them giving me, opinions and options on how can I deal with this for my own sanity, that I'm not hanging up by a bed sheet again and literally not falling down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
We just almost died here, Tom. So, we got to figure this out. So, and I figured it out. One of the guys that, I met there, I still, every once in a while, I still talk to the guy. I'll call him up, get some shit off my chest.
Yeah.
He owns a private practice now. How about that?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I can go there. He's a psychotherapist. I guess that's what they kind of call him now. But I'll go there and just sit down on the couch, and, we'll pick up like it's yesterday, And, realistically, to be honest with you, he didn't really say much. He'll just listen to me fucking talk, and then he'll give me some positive feedback, and, maybe you should handle it this way. How do you think this would work? And it's basically him letting me answer my own damn questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just giving me options and then saying, well, how do you think this might work if you did it this way? Explain that to me. And then I'll be like, well, it could do this and that. And he's like, well, why don't we try that next time? So, I mean, just that in itself, and having somebody kind of steer me back on the right path has helped me tremendously. And like I said, do I still deal with shit? Sure. And I'm going to have to the rest of my life.
Right.
It's never going to go away. There's not some magical pill that you can take to forget about this shit. Sure, you can drink yourself to sleep and all this extra stuff, but when you wake up in the morning, the shit's still there. Right. So if you don't figure out a way to deal with it and just, get past it, you're fucked.
Right. And you'll never be able to move on. And
so that was the biggest thing. And that's what I learned with this situation with, me trying to kill myself and all that extra stuff. That's what I learned. I learned that I got to deal with it. It's always going to be there, but I got to get past it or I'm not going to be here anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. So just kind of going a little bit back, in the conversation, as far as the Navy itself goes, what would you say to somebody who was interested in joining the Navy? What kind of recommendations or thoughts, would you pass along to somebody who was interested and headed into the Navy?
I would say that it's the best thing that you could ever do. I love the Navy. Do I like the VA?
That was one of the other questions I had. We've had a little bit of conversation about the VA before,
but,
yeah.
Hey, the Navy is great. While you're in the Navy, if you get sick in the Navy, there's some corpsmen in there to take care of you. You're good. TRICARE is great. So, you got outside people that you can go to outside doctors and everything. So military insurance is great and all that extra stuff. So, the Navy is great. I think the armed services period is great. My wife works for the Army, so she's there every day. I've got a lot of Army friends now through her. And of course we live right next to an Army base, and I'm really good friends with the chief of police over there. It's great. The military is great. do I think, for some people, there's some people that don't know a lot, you know what I mean? And it's just a great avenue for you to go somewhere and learn something, have direction in your life, because
Yeah.
that was the one thing that I needed. I needed direction. And it really helped me with that, you know. And of course, would I change anything in my life? I could honestly say that I probably wouldn't, you know, um, because the life that I lived, even being in trouble, doing the little stint in prison that I did, from hanging myself, you know, everything else that's happened in my life, I wouldn't change it because it's allowed me to see myself and it's allowed me to progress to who I am today. So
That's right.
without all this shit that's happened, there's no telling where I'd be at in the world. But I know that with everything that's happened today, I've been extremely successful, and I've made a lot of extremely good friends. I've got a wonderful wife. I got 3 wonderful kids, and I'm in a great place in my life. So without all this negative shit, I probably wouldn't be here.
Right. And, so I can say, I'm right there with you. My childhood was crap and had a lot of issues. And interestingly enough, it wasn't until I was 27, I think, that actually ended up being adopted in a court of law. And then we adopted uh, an adult and he was 25. So yeah. So I understand all of that and the PTSD from the childhood stuff. I get all of that. Makes perfect sense to me. And I would say the exact same thing. I can't say that I would change it. Obviously, you never want things
No.
for that kind of stuff, any of that kind of stuff when you're a kid to happen. However, it makes you who you are today. It makes you stronger because you realize in life things that you will accept, things that you won't accept, people that you will accept in your life, and people that
Yes.
you won't. And that's another big thing with individuals, as you said, where you would ended up, getting in with the wrong crowd and things of that nature. But I think, because you're kind of testing waters, right? You're trying to
Right.
find your way in life. Who's going to care about me? Uh, at all when you're
Yeah.
when you're beat down and you're beat down and you're beat down, the first person to hand you a hand to lift you up isn't always the best person,
Right.
right? You don't know that, but you're thinking to yourself, hey, this person is helping me, they must be good, so I'm going to follow them, and because they lifted me up. But you got to learn these things, and it makes you a better person because you're able to read people, you're able to choose a path that worked best for you and in your
Absolutely.
best interest, in your family's best interest. So I applaud you 100% for where you're at today and the things that you've accomplished. It's an incredible thing because not everybody has that mental strength,
Right.
and it took you that time, but you went through the right processes, and that's huge.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, for anybody that's watching this, man, the biggest thing is if you're dealing with some shit, you know, you don't have to be alone and deal with it. All right.
Right.
There's places, there's people out there, there's phone numbers you can call. One of the things the military has done is and there's a bunch of different nonprofit organizations out there that understand exactly what we're going through. And a lot of the shit, like I said, a lot of my shit was compounded. It wasn't just all military. You know what I mean? And I think the final break was the military. Um, but and that's what it took me for just to go off the deep end. You know what I mean? But yeah, everything that compounded that I'd been throughout my lifetime at that point just sent me over the edge. And if I'd have had somebody to talk to back then, and I probably wouldn't have had to go through all that shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just tell people if you're ever in a spot, and I mean you can look me up online too. I mean, we've got multiple YouTube pages and Stick Shift Racing, Instagram. Just look up Thomas West. I mean, you can find me everywhere. But the biggest thing is if you need somebody to talk to, call me. I mean, you can call me in the middle of the night. I mean, I'll sit there and talk to you. And hell, if you're somewhere close, if I got to come get you, I'll come get you. The last thing I want you to do is is to end up in a situation where I was hanging from that bed sheet, because that was the most scariest moment in my life, and I'm very extremely lucky to still be here, because I was on the way out, and just don't put yourself in a situation like that. Call somebody, talk to somebody, and get some help. All right, because you got a life to live, and there's no telling what you could do. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not even done yet. I still got a billion things I want to do. So I'm still working towards those. I'm getting older
Yep.
now, and I wake up in the morning. I got to figure out what turns on first, but drink a cup of coffee or some shit. But
Well, it's like we were talking backstage, right? And I was saying, so just to let everybody out there know kind of what we did yesterday. So Tom, well, why don't you tell them a little bit about what was going on yesterday and kind of what kind of racing you're into?
So initially, I've been a drag racer all my life. I love dragging cars, and I've got three dragsters myself. My wife has two. I do door cars, so I'm into as you see stick shift racing. So I do pro outlaw stick shift racing. So we go really, really fast on H pattern stick shift clutch assisted cars. So that's what I do. And probably about 4 or 5 months ago, I wrecked a car. I hit a wall doing about $150. I was in the finals. I was going for first place, and I can't let out for some reason. I mean, I'm going for first. Why would I quit? So I lost the car. And I mean, we're putting it back together, but I lost control of it, and I clipped the wall. And at that point, we're putting the car back together, and my buddy's like, "Dude, we should go drifting." And I was like, "Well, I never did that before." And he's like, "Well, you can drive, so we should probably do it." So I went with a buddy of mine, Andy, and he put me in a car, and I loved it. And I was like, "Dude, this is great." So I got me a little knick-knack car to learn how to drift with, and I kind of picked up on that, and then an opportunity come up for me to go to LS Fest. So I was like, man, I got to build an LS powered real car. So we built a pro car, a Pro-Am car, and I started doing it, and then I've just excelled from there in the sport of drifting. I don't want to sound like I got a big head, but a lot of guys are really pumping me up, telling me, dude, are you really good? Let's work on this, and putting me in different directions on how to continue to be the best that I can be. So we've been in some drift competitions. We've got really high points. We've qualified first in a drift competition. We've caught cars on fire.
And if you haven't, go out and take a look at stick shift racing. Let me tell you. So there's some incredible videos out there. There's one in particular. If you're a Ford fan, I apologize. Well, not really, but
I'm not a Ford fan.
I'm not either. But it was a great video. But yeah, he's got some really entertaining stuff out there. So be sure to go out and take a look at that too. But
yeah, we went drifting yesterday. So
we did.
We put a camera in the car, so I'm going to give some footage to her, and she's going to make her a little video and post it up, maybe a reel or something. So I'll tell you what, she did pretty good. All right, I thought she was going to be freaking out because I looked over here at her, and she's like,
that was me, 100%. That was so me.
When I told her, I was like, all right, just chill. You don't have to choke yourself. You can put your hands down. And then once we got through the first one, it was like, oh, well, that wasn't that bad. I was like,
yeah,
I told you, So yeah, it was a great event. We had a great time yesterday. We actually we broke the power steering line yesterday, so we got it fixed this morning. And they had a spooktacular, is what they called it, drift event up here in Clarksville for
fun
kids and just starting the Halloween thing off.
Yeah.
So we went out there and did that, and we got some really good footage out there today, and we put really crazy angle. We were trying today was more of a learning day. So I was trying a whole lot of different things and taking some, criticism from other guys telling me, hey, you should do this. You need to work on that, and yada, yada, yada. But in the end, we were doing, having the car at such an incredible angle, almost doing some reverse entries. And it was just absolutely incredible. So it was a great day today.
Nice. Yeah. Let me tell you, I didn't realize. So I got up this morning and my sternum hurt. And I was like, wonder what? No, I'm not having a heart attack. I know I'm not having a heart attack. And I figured it out. It was because I was doing this.
Yeah,
I
you can
mean,
do that.
yes. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But really loads of fun. I really enjoyed it. I surprised myself. But we were talking about, um, totally out of my comfort zone. I don't take risks. I'm not a big risk taker. A lot of that I think goes back to some of the childhood stuff. You're
Right,
never going to be anything and so on and so forth. And so I tend to set myself up for failure,
right.
where I've got all these great ideas and I want to do this and I want to do that and everything. I mean, they're amazing ideas, but then you just give up on it
Yeah.
because
Well, let me throw some food for thought in that. So we haven't really covered this, but another little quick story about my life. Um, so all this stuff that I'm doing right now, all this race car shit, the YouTube channel, and building a race car shop, and everything else that I'm doing is, I owe a lot of this to my wife, and this has all been dreams of mine, and these are the dreams that you don't really chase. The average person don't. We
right.
go to work, we raise our kids, we live a simple life, and that's basically it, And I got diagnosed with lymphoma, and it wasn't as traumatizing. Like we went through the whole suicide thing. That was probably the most traumatizing thing that ever happened in my life. But when somebody says the word cancer, the first thing that comes through your head is, all right, it's time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I kind of went through a little bit of depression, but I was getting myself out of it a lot quicker because I've learned how to deal with things. You know what I mean? And I just kind of had an epiphany in my life whenever all this happened. And my wife kind of just said, my wife was like my biggest, support system on this. I was just like,
She's a great lady, by the
oh,
way.
she's
You make
awesome.
sure you tell her I said that.
Absolutely. But I was just like, man, I got to start living life.
Hmm.
And she was like, yeah, because I mean, all I did was work. We had family time, and we went on some vacations here and there. And of course, I was drag racing at the time, but not to the level and extent that I'm doing now. You know what I mean? We did it for fun and all this extra crap. And I told her, I was like, I got to start living my life. And I was like, because now I know I mean, tomorrow's not promised, and
Yeah.
now I just got diagnosed with this cancer shit, and let's do some shit. And she's like, all right. So, and I didn't really, I only told select few people, so I kept, and a lot of people saw me losing weight, all this extra shit. And what's wrong with you? And I just wouldn't tell nobody, I just started living life to the fullest. And because I didn't want that pity party from people,
Yeah.
and I told my wife, I was like, look, I want to open up a race car company. I want to start Renegade Racing. And a guy named Jason started the nickname Renegade. He started calling me that, and we kind of just went with it. And man, we made 3 years ago. I printed off. I made my first design of a shirt, and we said, let's see if we can make this work. So we made 150 shirts, and she sold them off the back of a golf cart in an hour and a half. Her and her
Oh
brother.
my gosh.
So I was like, all right. Well, she's like, well, we're getting us a vendor trailer. And so I'm like, damn, So we went and got a vendor trailer, and then we started making more stuff. And, we started a website, and then it was like, let's start a YouTube channel. Let's start an Instagram. And then I had a lot of people helping me, like Kyle Loftus from 1320. He was posting stuff on his Instagram and Facebook
Mhm.
pages. I always wanted my own billboard. So I went and bought a billboard.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, I rented one from Lamar, and it was a picture of me sitting on the toilet taking a crap, and it said Tennessee's next governor. Literally, it said Tennessee's next governor, and it had the YouTube channel on it. And it like 1320 posted that on his.
Oh my gosh. That is hilarious.
They almost got arrested. I climbed. After I mean, since I bought the billboard, I mean, it's my billboard, right? So I climbed the billboard, and I was up on top of this billboard, standing like on the catwalk, and I had an American flag, and I was like standing up there waving the American flag. And my photography guy that does all of our videos, he was like flying a drone around on the interstate, and like I'm talking about trucks were honking their horn while I'm waving a flag. I
Oh
mean, it
my
was
gosh.
absolutely crazy. But I mean, so the thing is I just started living life. I was like, man, I'm going to start saying yes to the things and the dreams that I've had. I'm
Mhm.
gonna just if I dreamed about it, I'm going to do it. You know, if I thought it was a good idea, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm going to give it everything I got. And that's kind of and then since then I've been in remission for a long time now. But I
That's great
haven't.
news.
I appreciate that, but I haven't stopped living life like that. I mean, I
Yep.
can't give it up, and there's no turning around on this shit now. It's already got out of control, so it's just like, all right, we just keep going with it. Let's see where it goes. But yeah,
I could just see you. I could just picture you up on that and waving that flag.
I'll send you a picture and a video of it. You'll laugh.
Yeah, please
It's
do.
actually it's on the YouTube channel. So if you check out Stick Shift Racing and
Okay.
scroll, a year back or something in our videos, you'll see it. We've only got like maybe 250 videos on there, so you don't have to go back that far. But you'll actually see me like a picture of the billboard. And if you watch the video, I climb, I scale the thing. It's absolutely ridiculous.
That is awesome. That's awesome.
Uh,
So let me ask you, the VA,
yeah.
obviously they helped in your situation. They were there. How do you think that they could improve?
Very big. So, a lot of the VA stuff, man, is I just feel I don't know if it's underfunded or what the whole issue is, man, but I just don't feel a lack of effort in anything with the VA. You know what I mean? The VA's real quick to say, I mean, we've had a conversation about being dehydrated before. You know what I mean? Like, man,
Mm-hmm.
I've got walking pneumonia, and y'all tell me to go drink some water. You know what I mean? Like, it's not cool. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like I feel like a lot of it's a get out of my face thing. What can I give you to get you out of my face? And I think some of it has to do with a lot of our military personnel. And I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about our vets that are out there. We got some vets that are fucking scumbags. All right. And I hate to say that, I know you might've been through some shit and yada, 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 but I mean, you made it through boot camp. Great. You've never been deployed, and now you've got PTSD and you're milking the government for 100% disability check and all this extra shit. All right. So these are the scumbag motherfuckers I'm talking about, so, and then you're going down to the VA, and they know what you're there for. And I figure that's a lot of what this shit is. The VA is so used to seeing these scumbag ass people that haven't seen any war, that haven't seen anything. I mean, they literally been here in the States and all you've done is some training and now you're 100% disabled for PTSD. It doesn't make any sense to me, so you got people jumping out of windows just to break their arms so they can get, it's stupid. I've literally seen some of the most stupidest shit in the world of people milking the government. And I think that the VA sees that too. And a lot of these doctors and people that are down there, they don't take real shit serious, because, and I think I've just kind of like formulated this idea in my head. That's why the VA sucks so bad, is because they're so used to these scumbags coming in there, milking the system. And then you come in there, but you actually have a valid problem. And you're like, man, I'm losing my fucking mind. I think I'm going to kill myself. And they're like, oh yeah, here, take this. You'll be all right. Call me in 60 days, and it's like, man, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a pill. I'm not looking for this, I really need some help, and so I think the VA has kind of just, went into an opposite direction. And you see like the military nowadays, my brother-in-law is a recruiter. And now if you even had, been on Ritalin as a child for ADHD, if you've been diagnosed with anything, you're not getting in.
Right.
There's no waiver for any of this shit anymore. They do a medical background check on you.
They do.
So nowadays if you've been, it's a lot harder to get into the military nowadays than it's ever been. And it's because of all these scumbag ass damn soldiers that have taken advantage of the government and the situation that they've been put in, and said, hey, well, I'm going to milk this for every penny that I got. And now we got all these strict things going on. But I think that if we could get if we could get some help in the VA for people to understand that there are people, and really do your homework on somebody before you write them off as another leech just trying to get something off the government. And I think that's what needs to be done in the VA. And I think that a lot of them just they've got that mindset that everybody's just trying to milk the government now, and they don't really give a shit about the people that are really suffering. And that's kind of how I feel. A lot of people might feel differently about that, but I just feel that they really don't. So one of the biggest things with the VA and being a veteran is you can seek outside help. You know what I mean? There's like I said, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations out there. And that's where I would, any vet out there that's suffering with anything, I mean, unless it's like a physical medical condition that you got to go to the VA to get taken care of, but if it's something on the mental aspect of things, and my personal opinion, I would seek help elsewhere, not the VA. All right. Because the VA is so overrun with douchebags that they're not going to give you the attention that you really need. So I would say reach out to a nonprofit or somebody that's actually dealing with the shit that you're dealing with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they can relate. They can relate and then they know you're sincere. They know you're not just out here trying to get $1 from somebody because they ain't got no money to give you.
Exactly.
They ain't got no money to give you. They're really there to actually help you. You know what I mean? So with that being said, hey, you're reaching out to somebody that's actually going to put you in the right place, in the place that you need to be at.
Right. So Killian is my son.
Gotcha.
He is Marine.
Gotcha.
And he's looking to be out hopefully this time next year. Fingers crossed. Everything goes great. He's one of my two. The other one is on here as well. And that is Saga Flamingwood. And I think he's still out there. But so, information, some of this, is really good information that you've brought up. And Killian, I know he has his thoughts on certain things. Yeah, don't get him started. And he does say too that the wounded, he has some things with the Wounded Warrior Project. But going on that, as far as the different resources that are available, have you ever heard of Operation Stand Down here in Middle Tennessee?
Absolutely.
Have you ever dealt with them?
No, I haven't. It's been a long time since I've reached out to somebody. Like I said, I've worked through my demons and I've got to the point to where I am now. But I've done some things with other like small nonprofits here in town locally that help a lot of Army guys out and stuff like that. So I still try and give a little bit of me back to people that I know that are dealing with some of the same shit that I'm dealing with and that I've dealt with. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I've heard of Operation Stand Down, these are some of the bigger name, nonprofits out there that are helping people. But like I said, hey, there we go, Navy right here, baby. So, what I would just, like I said, my personal opinion, and of course your son said the same thing. It's such a good point because. With him being still current right now, if he's got to deal with this shit too. I mean, he deals with it on a daily basis. When you're enlisted, you see these fucking clowns. He knows exactly what the hell I'm talking about. Guys that have not seen a day of combat, that haven't done a damn thing, and they got nothing. I don't know what happened in their past or their previous life before the military, but there is nothing in the military that has hurt you or made you feel any type of way. And you're going to sit here and jump out of windows and act like you're fucking crazy and all this extra shit just to get a paycheck from the government. And I think that's the number one thing that has run the VA to where it's at right now, to where it's just a piece of shit. You go to the VA for anything and they ain't trying to hear it because it's just so overrun with clowns that are doing this crazy crap just to milk the government, and it's went to shit, so.
And, and I think true with that, staying true with what you just said, I think that that's also true in medical on military bases.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Yeah, you see that too.
Because you've got the different ones. You've got your legal holds and your mental holds, but you also have your medical holds. And it seems like, it seems like you've got they just group everybody together, and and you've got people with serious stuff going on.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I get it, and there's guys out there, that they really, one of the things that I've noticed is the guys that really do have things going on, they're not the guys out here screaming, "Hey, I'm a vet. I'm this." They're not wanting all
Right.
this attention. You know what I'm saying? It's the one that's quiet sitting in the corner. Those are the ones that need to be worried about. Those are the ones that we need to talk to, and those are the ones that we need to help, because
Yep.
those are the ones that really went through some shit and that are dealing with some shit.
Yeah.
I got a previous encounter with a guy. He's local here, and anything and everything. He just, it just really just gets under it. It unnerves me about some of these guys. Like, I don't know his whole military career. I know he was in Cav, but I don't know what kind of combat he's seen or anything like that. But anything that's brought up, and he's just in your face. I'm a vet, and I'm this.
Interesting.
What's that?
Oh, so yeah, Killian says he hears you. Lima Charlie, definitely
Yeah.
a big challenge being a current instructor.
Oh,
So
I mean, he sees it all the time. Then,
yeah.
he sees it all the freaking time. And I mean, this guy, he's always screaming out, "I'm a vet and I'm dealing with this and everything." He can be like, "Yeah, the cops came up here, but I'm a vet." And I'm just at the point where nobody gives a shit what you are. I'm saying, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Deal with it. If you need help, go get some help, brother. Don't nobody care. I'm a vet too. I'm not screaming and throwing that in everybody's face. You know what I mean? I just feel like some people want all this special privilege and all this extra shit. You know, I'm fed up with a lot of the stuff that's going on in society nowadays.
You're not alone there at
Yeah.
all.
The
At
people that
all.
need help are the quiet ones.
Yep.
Those are the ones that I want to stand beside and call brother. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you're watching this and you need to talk to somebody, hit me up. And Killian sees the same shit too. Hit him up. I mean, I'm sure he'll talk to you, because
Yep.
he deals with these sucker ass people all day long. So we're here to help you. We've dealt with the shit too, and let's go.
Yeah, for sure. And just dropping, so we dropped, a little bit about the Operation Stand Down. So for those of you veterans that are out here within Middle Tennessee, you can check them out. The other two, if you own your home and you are, I know, at least 100% disabled veteran, then you actually can look at having some kind of, you can file for property tax relief. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm assuming you're 100% disabled. Is
No,
that
so
they didn't retire? They didn't put you at 100% after all that?
hell no, man. Well, I tell you, like, because I never went. I've never. I mean, I could probably go get 100% disabled right now, if I wanted to. I could I could go out here and do the PTSD thing.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
For sure.
But, yeah, I do get some retirement. You know what I mean. I get some medical disability and all that stuff, but I'm not 100% disabled, and I haven't went over here to the government with my fucking hand out talking about I've got problems, woe is me, and all this extra shit. I really don't believe in that. You know what I mean? If I have a legitimate issue, then and the government wants to help me, that's really cool. You know what I mean? And I'm just, me being the type of person that preaches this, about these guys taking advantage of the government and all this extra. I've never went and exercised my right and fought the government for PTSD and everything else. I'm fine. I got a good lifestyle. I make a good paycheck, and I don't want to be that crowd that's out here banging on Uncle Sam's door to get a paycheck over some shit that I really don't need help with. So
right.
I've been able to go ahead, and I was able to deal with these problems. I was able to seek help, and I don't think that I qualify for the things that the PTSD pay and everything else that actual true people that was out here shooting the gun and getting shot at and being in the trenches and all this extra shit. I got hit with a stray bullet. You know what I mean? I didn't see any combat. You know what I mean? So with these people that are actually out here dealing with the mindset of they just killed this 9-year-old kid, and when they go to sleep every night, that's something that they're seeing. You know, these are the guys that truly need help with that can't make it to work every day because they're dealing with extreme mental problems from the stuff that they see.
Right.
That's what I truly believe in. So,
Right.
you know, that's for them guys, you know, and no, I'm not 100%, you know, it'd be nice, you know.
Well, I am going to tell you, I do think so. The last information that I had, I think that the state hadn't quite gotten all of their flyers and such updated yet, but I think that they changed it. It's no longer strictly 100%.
Right.
So, you know, that's one of those things that, you know, dependent upon whatever the percentage is. I'm going to tell you my personal opinion on this is if you went and you joined, and whether it was, you know, due to a draft way back when, or you volunteered and you went in and you served, you know, a minimum of what, you know, one tour, being, you know, whatever that might be, if it's a, you know, a 2-year, 4-year contract, whatever it is, you did that. You volunteered, regardless of what it was, regardless of whether you were just, you know, as like our last week's interview where he did communications. He was never physically in Vietnam. He was in a bunch of other countries putting up communications, and the same with you. I mean, here you were, you know, helping to provide water, which ultimately helped the troops. And, you know, those kinds of things. Doesn't matter what you did, even if you were still stateside on a computer flying a drone around. But the fact that, my opinion is, if you took that initiative and you completed or even if, you know, you were medically discharged or something along those lines, I still think that the government and we as individuals, we owe you a huge thank you, at a minimum, a thank you. So, you know, I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. My thought.
And you know, I believe in that too. You know what I mean? There's a lot that I see in that. You know, and like you said, we're in a time of active war. You know what I'm saying? So
and we are now, especially. Yeah.
So if we're, you know, at active war and all this stuff and et cetera, then, you know, sure, you know, you went out here, you dedicated your service, your life, you know, and your life's on the line. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You deserve something, you know, and I think that brings up a good point. And, you know, a lot of the things that like I said, I get on a rant about that a lot. You know, sometimes I piss people off because they just feel they're God's gift, and I'm just like, yeah, you know, I just have a real that's a sore spot for me, you know.
Yeah.
You know, especially people taking advantage, and you know, because I mean, I know people. I know people. I had a friend lose his life in the military that I was really friends with while I was deployed with, you know, and I came back one day and he wasn't there. You know what I mean? There's things that I've seen and that I've done, you know, where that I truly see that people need help.
Yep.
You know, and the whole whenever somebody gets around me and they start talking that shit, I'm 100% disabled, and I'm like, oh yeah, well what are you disabled for? And they're like, you know, I never got deployed. Like there's a guy right now, I'm not going to bring his name up, but he's never saw deployment. All right. And he's 100% disabled right now. All right. He's 100% disabled because now he's crazy. All right. And I mean, and I know him, and he's really not. And I can't stand it. It eats me alive, you know, and it's just because there's so many people out there, you know, that actually truly need it. And, you know, one of these days, who knows what the government might do? You know, this whole world's fucked right now, especially America. They could just wake up one morning and say, you know what? We're not helping anybody anymore. Y'all can all fuck off. All right. So when that day happens and the guys that truly need it, because all these other ones milk the whole planet, it's sad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a sore spot for me with that. The whole who needs money and who doesn't, because there's just, I just believe if I believe in hard work, I believe in dedication. And that's just I got different values in life. I'm sorry. I just get on.
And that's okay. I don't think anybody's judging, and it comes down to where you've been in your life and your views and the things that we go through individually, and that's what creates who we are. If everybody was the same and had the same thoughts, boy, this world would be boring.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So let me see. Do you have anything else you want to share? Anything? Any questions out there in the chats you guys want to put out there? Feel free. It sounds like Tom is pretty much an open book. He's very, very outgoing, outspoken, and gosh, can't thank you enough for doing this. This has been great having you here, and the conversation is always wonderful. Talking to you, like I said, this is the third time that we've been talking and back and forth, and you just very open, outgoing personality. So I can tell you all out there when he says, hey, give me a call if you have issues or something, he means it. Yeah, he definitely means it. So
absolutely.
So
I'll definitely talk to you, man. Maybe you could help me a little bit, because a lot of the inspiration I get is from others, and I think we all kind of get that from everybody. You know what I mean? I don't just wake up in the morning and inspire myself to do some bullshit. You know what I mean? It's somebody else inspiring me and somebody telling me their story. I want to hear somebody else's story, because, that's going to give me inspiration to keep moving for the next day. You know what I mean? So
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you very, very much. And we'll get some little bit of music going and get everybody excited a little bit. There we go. See, I'm learning all this new stuff.
Absolutely. You're going to get it, girl.
So again, thanks so very much for doing this, and let us know where you're at next time for your drifting, and we'll see if we can make it out there again.
Yeah, absolutely. We got us a little Dodge Challenger over here. They're strapping up to the dyno right now, so I guess we're about to spin the wheels on this thing and see what kind of power it makes.
This is going to be exciting. Well, thank you so very much for your service. Thanks for, all the sacrifices that you've gone through, and we appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Most definitely.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, you want to stick around backstage, and we will kind of let this end.
All right, cool deal.
Bye.